Oh, shit. Yo, what's good, everybody? Welcome to Unfair Sports, where we take a pensive approach to the sports conversation. I'm your host, Jay, with my co-host, Jimmy. Thank you for watching us here on the YouTubes and listening to us wherever podcasts are downloaded and listened to. While you're there, like, subscribe, comment, follow, rate us, and review us. Give us 5 stars. You don't think we deserve it? Man, let's give us 5 anyway.
Gifted.
So, on today's episode of Unfair Sports, we're going to dive right into a lot of quarterbacks. Rodgers versus Winston. Mayfield versus Mahomes versus Jackson. Tannehill versus Murray. Prescott versus Brady. A little QB game. And a recap of our Frozen 5 from this past week. So make you hit us up on the Unfair Fan Line, 430-901-1906. Leave us a message and you can end up on the show. Give us your strongest opinions. We listen to them all the time and we make a decision when we're going to bring them on. So go ahead and call us with your hate mail. Call us with your love mail. Do all of that jazz. Hit us up. 430-901-1906.
Jam Master. Look like Jason Voorhees. What's up?
Wow. What a do, B. Jason Voorhees. What God, good Lord. That's pretty bad.
That is pretty bad. At least he's one of the goats, though.
I mean,
one of the
goat scary people.
Yeah, one of the
so
most.
You're saying I terrify people when they walk in the room.
Yes, your face is the stuff of nightmares. Yes, you are correct.
I could totally see that. I was actually quite terrifying this weekend too. Show updates. Hope you guys checked out the OSG fantasy report we did this past week. It was dope.
Money.
We talked money. I actually won a couple of fantasy games with some of the research I got.
Very good, sir.
We have a write up that's going to have the full details, and we're going to make sure to condense the show to where you get, the important stuff. Sit, start, all that jazz. So check out the OSG report and Jimmy's Frozen 5 later this week. So it was good stuff. Man.
I see you got that nice Tennessee tan.
I do, actually.
Yeah.
I had a great weekend. So my weekend started with a journey. I decided that in large part because some of you listeners and watchers, and at the large part of something that I've always wanted to do, since I feel like the world is going to come to an end probably in the next 6 to 8 months or whatever. Pretty much. Joking. But it feels like it. I told myself I needed to go ahead and make the trip of all trips. I need to go ahead and get to Knoxville, get to Neyland Stadium for the first time in my life, watch my Volunteers, and I got exactly what I expected. As a fan of the team, I watched my Volunteers take the L that I knew that they were going to take. And so getting that L in person is a lot different. Going to watch OU take L's, I've seen that a few times, and it hits different than the victory. I mean, victory, you think you kind of expect it.
Right.
But when you get that L, you're like, oh, it hurts. So for this one, I expected that L. And if the victory would have came, I would have been like, oh, my God.
Right.
But it was great to see Neyland Stadium in person, see Knoxville, Tennessee, be around the city. It was dope. I really enjoyed the environment. It was funny. I met a lot of people that were more so transplants than they were actual natives of Knoxville. So people actually volunteered to stay there. No pun intended with that. Yeah, rim shot. But no, they chose to live in Knoxville, mainly family and relocations. It was kind of funny. Waitress, the lady at the hotel. It was pretty interesting. I was like, wait, you're not from here? Well, interesting. But shout out to Holly Anderson and the Shutdown Full Cast. Holly threw me an alley-oop on Twitter. I asked the places to eat in Knoxville because she went to University of Tennessee. And Rocky Top gave me a whole bunch of dope spots. Got some good food. Got me some dessert. Thank you, Holly, for that. Thank you, Rocky Top. Y'all showed your boy a good time. To add to that weekend, I decided to extend it. And Sunday, because of you Titans fans, you told me that the Tennessee Titans was someone to think about. Let me go ahead and dive right in with this, shall we?
Yes.
I haven't used this intro in a bit. But Titans fans told me that I should be looking out for what the Tennessee Titans are going to do. So what did I do? I decided to fly out to Nashville, went to a game, sat there, and watched my boy Kyler Murray beat y'all down. Beat y'all down in that game. And Kyler, of course, had a great game. He is my fantasy quarterback. So, of course, your boy was overly excited. He gave me 289 yards, 4 touchdowns, and he ran the ball 5 times for 20 yards, also for a rushing touchdown. It was one of those games that I would not have expected the Tennessee Titans to look this bad in. The reason why I didn't expect Titans fans for y'all to take this L, I picked the Titans to cover the spread at -3. Now, with the spread being -3, right, made a mistake. I learned my lesson from there. -3 means that the Vegas felt like you all were equal. I get why Vegas thought that the Titans and the Cardinals were equal, because the Cardinals were working them out. Jimmy, I know you watched some of this. I know you saw some highlights through it.
Yes.
And I know Red Zone pulled through for us on this. The Titans literally throughout about halfway through the first quarter had like negative 21 yards of total offense. Titans fans, y'all told me, because this Cardinals defense is not supposed to be good. This is like a maybe middle of the road, if not lower ranked defense, if I'm correct. Their defense has a lot of holes and question marks.
But with the healthy Chandler Jones, yes, they're middle of the pack.
And I'll say this, that's probably the biggest miss in Bill Belichick's career. Because remember, he let Chandler Jones go. But anyway, my point is, y'all just didn't look good. Tannehill couldn't get rid of the ball. Tannehill with the fumble like that, though. Man, I'm just sitting there with Titans fans, and they're all looking at me like... But I'm going to give props to the Cardinals' defensive scheme, because I figured out what they did. And we're going to talk about that in a minute. But Jimmy, I have to ask you this question. Since I decided to go to this game, exert all my energy, and check out what the Tennessee Titans have to offer, is Tannehill a top 10 quarterback? Is it fair to say Tannehill is not a top 10 NFL quarterback?
I think that, and I'm going to go in 2 different directions on this. My experience watching the game at home, at the same time knowing that you're at this game, a big part of what I thought about is what our criticisms were of this Tennessee team as to why we felt they were a good team, a playoff team, but not the Super Bowl team that the fans who hit us up on our YouTube page and in the video were making it out to be. First thing I did look at was the quarterback. No, Ryan Tannehill did not look like a top 10 quarterback. Now, Titans fans, before you go and say this is just week 1, a lot of good teams lost in week 1. I understand all that, but I don't want to hear that right now because this was something more. I'll explain why. So with that particular performance, like you said, against a defense like this that is decent but not great, Chandler Jones is not 5 sacks worth of greatness. He's a really good player. He missed all of last season, I think, with an ACL, but 5 sacks, no defensive player. Aaron Donald, Khalil Mack, nobody should ever be allowed to have 5 sacks. When your left tackle, Taylor Lewan, right, is supposed to be one of the best players, if not the best player on your offensive line. But either way, no. See, what you look for in a game like this is you look for your quarterback to put the team on his back in a fashion, to give them life, to at least make them competitive. And there was nothing about Ryan Tannehill's 212 yards, fumble, and interception, along with a touchdown that meant nothing, that suggested anything about him being a top 10 quarterback. And this is a big part of what you said. Your criticism has been Ryan Tannehill is good, but he's not the quarterback you all are making him out to be, even with Julio Jones. Now, that's just the quarterback. Now, me, if you remember, my criticism was this defense. There are defensive problems with this team. And watching this, that is exactly what I saw. Now, again, Titans fans, I'm already ahead of you. Don't talk to me about Kyler Murray being an MVP candidate. I know he's really good. I know he's going to be great. I know that he treated you all like a varsity team, but don't give me that as an excuse for what I was already trying to tell you, that this defense is going to struggle against teams like this who know what they're doing on offense and who have multiple dimensions of their offense. So 2 sacks against this team, especially when you're getting beat like that, not enough. Bud Dupree, he was the prize free agent that you all told me about from Pittsburgh, right? 1 tackle, not enough. Who else? 136 rush yards.
One tackle. He sure did.
1 tackle. 136 rushing yards. What makes that worse is that Derrick Henry couldn't get going. More on that because you know exactly why you were there. And the Cardinals there were at least 5 receptions that went for at least 20 yards or more for a 13.8 yard average. That should not happen with the way you were talking about this defense and how they were going to play. So to me, this is an extreme example of what their problems are, but they are problems. Yes, they're going to get better. Yes, this won't happen every game, but you need to pay attention to this. Don't write this off as just week 1. This meant a lot. You all have problems.
And you're exactly right. And this is what bothered me in this game. So I'm sitting amongst the Titans fans and we're watching this. I swear to God, let me pull back. if Cliff Kingsbury gets fired at the end of the season, this is one of the games they will point to as to why. And let me explain. I swear the Arizona Cardinals had like 10, I'm exaggerating, 10 penalties within the first like 5 minutes of the game. Holding, false start, nonstop. We were sitting there looking like, I'm like, dude, this is going to get Cliff Kingsbury. This is the thing that gets coaches fired after being with the team for like 4 years and you're not producing, is when you see undisciplined play like this. They were undisciplined. They were basically giving the Titans everything they needed to win this game. But what did the Titans do instead? Gave the game back. And this is something that we said about the Titans. This is one of the problems I've had with Tannehill. If Derrick Henry doesn't get going, guess what happens? The team loses. They lose. They don't play well. They lose. Your offensive line is a little questionable now. I didn't realize it was this questionable, but it is definitely questionable now. And your defense is 100% questionable. And we were very much right in saying this. We're very much saying we're right on this is because Kyler Murray should not have eaten y'all up like this.
No.
Not with all these penalties. Not with the way that this team looked. This team looked so undisciplined. And that was one of the problems I had, is that they gave y'all every single reason and purpose and opportunity to win this game. The Cardinals had 8 penalties for 59 yards. And I swear to God, those 8 penalties came in the first quarter. Because it was over and over and over and over. Being like, really, are y'all not going to stop holding? You're not going to stop holding. But Tennessee could not capitalize. And that, to me, tells me that there's bigger problems with this team than what we saw in week 1.
And I don't think it's going to get better soon, because usually with a performance like this, and we saw several of these, when a team who's supposed to be good gets railroaded like this in week 1, they say just relax. There's 16 games left in this season. We'll get better. But look at your schedule over between now and week 10. So you have the Seattle Seahawks at Seattle next. That's going to be a hard game.
Yes.
Right? You have the Colts at home after that. Divisional opponent. They know you well. You know them well.
Exactly.
That's not going to be an easy game. Then you get the 2 rookie quarterbacks back to back. You get the Jets and Zach Wilson, and you get the Jags and Trevor Lawrence.
And you're on the road for both games.
Okay, but both should be W's, right?
Yes,
All right,
I agree.
Then after that, you get Buffalo, who's pissed off right now because of how they looked against the Steelers. Then you get Kansas City. You're not winning that game. Then you get the Colts again.
On the road.
Then you get the Rams on the road. And then you get the Saints, who are better than people think. So whatever the blueprint was, or aspects of that blueprint that you saw in this game, you're going to be facing that all season long. So you're right. Ryan Tannehill is going to have to prove that he is better than what he showed. And against some of these teams with real defenses and really good defensive coaches, he's not going to look any better than this probably.
Let me ask this question, Jimmy, real quick before we move on.
Yeah.
So how soon does Julio Jones ask for a trade? Because he looked like he was pissed that he wasn't getting passes thrown to him.
How many targets did he get? Because he had a couple of opportunities. I saw that there was this one sequence where they were, I think, in the red zone, and Tannehill would make a good pass. The guy would have it in his hands, but the defender for the Cardinals would just knock it out.
Every single time.
Right?
He had 6 targets, 3 catches, 29 yards. And there was at one point, I swear to God, Julio Jones was wide open at least 2 or 3 times deep, and Tannehill did not even look his direction. I'm not trying to bag on Tannehill. My point with you Titans fans, you told me that there should be more to expect out of this dude. And I didn't say that Tannehill was bad. I just said that he's not a world beater, and you have to have everything perfect for y'all to win. This is what I meant.
Right. So explain this to us. Explain this without saying this is week 1, relax. Explain this. Just explain what happened, because many of you were probably at the game. Many of you probably watched locally or wherever you are in the world. Explain to us what happened, but please don't make excuses for this team. Please don't be that type of fan. Just acknowledge what they are. Yes, they're not going to be the same team week 1 as they are week 16 and week 17, but don't enable them by making excuses for them. Just don't do that.
Just don't do that. Okay, so that is the Titans.
Yeah.
Let's move on. Next game. You had some observations from Sunday that you were a little bit perturbed about.
Oh, man. That New Orleans Packers game transplanted to Jacksonville was probably, to me, one of the biggest surprises I've seen in football, in week 1 football, because typically week 1 football is almost like the NCAA tournament. You expect the top seeds to beat the lower seeds and do so handedly. So you expect that in the NFL. But no, sir, not with this. I can't even call it a performance. It was just, they showed up. They had on their uniforms, the Packers did. They went onto the field, and they were involved in actual plays on the field. But that was about it. because they got destroyed by the Saints 38-3. Aaron Rodgers, 133 yards, 2 interceptions. Jameis Winston. Explain this to me. How in the hell do you have 4 touchdown passes before you have 100 yards passing? Have you ever seen that?
Never. He had 5 touchdown passes in this
total.
game.
Yeah.
That Saints defense, I'm not gonna lie. I did not believe they were gonna be this good.
No.
And I learned a quick lesson of no, they're real deal.
And what's funny is when you think about it, they're always this Saints defense the last 5 or 6 years has never been bad, has never only been pretty good.
No, yeah.
They've only been good or very good.
Yep, and their problem was they were mainly young. It was all youth.
Mm-hmm.
You had with Marshawn Lattimore, who just got a fat contract, which now, granted, I see why he got a fat contract.
Teeing up news before we get there.
Yeah, but I'm saying, like, you add him, they looked like a good unit. I watched portions of the game, and I did not. I was in shock.
And we all know whose fault it is. Every single person knows whose fault it is. We didn't expect it to happen like this, but we knew whose fault it was. And this is a big part of the reason why neither you nor me picked them to even go back to the NFC Championship, and that's because of Aaron Rodgers. Here's the reason why. Same day as game 1, week 1. What happens? They drop the interview, Fox, with Aaron Andrews, where he's back talking about the same crap that he's already talked about all offseason long.
Diva,
the Jordan Love crap, I thought about retirement crap, which in this game, it looked like he was playing like a retired player.
I thought he quit.
Too, and he probably did. So you drop that the exact same day, and that's so symbolic of what is wrong with this team. Aaron Rodgers and all that crap that he took them through in the offseason has totally ruined the psyche of his team. They know he doesn't want to be there. They know that he's 1 foot out, 1 foot in. So if he's not, and they know that they only go as far as he goes, then why should everybody else be? Everybody else played as lifeless and lackluster as he did, and he doesn't care. You saw him on the bench. He looked like his life was perfectly fine. And I mean, I guess to some degree it is. I mean, he's got a really good life. We know that. But he looked like he didn't care. It was not a big deal at all. And that's something that you never see when Russell Wilson and Brady, they don't take L's like this. But when they lose or they're about to lose, you can see it. You can see that it affects them from the inside out. Aaron Rodgers, just everything was all right. Everything was all right.
And the funny thing is looking at I always look at the play-by-play. I always make mention this for a reason because it kind of gives you the write out, the oral history of what's going on with the game. It gives you the detail of every single play that happens, and then you watch the game so you can take all that information in and see, okay, that's how this happened based upon the things that aren't quantifiable, like offensive line play, defensive line play,
right,
pressures, things like that. But my God, punt, field goal in the second quarter, interception, downs, punt. And these are like 6 plays, 4 plays, 3 plays. The first interception was a 10-play possession, so that one was a little shocking. But they were giving the Saints really, really, really good field position to where our boy Jameis Winston can go out there and throw for 148 yards and have 5 touchdowns.
Which says something about field position.
Yeah, right. And they had 0 sacks. And the Saints only sacked them twice. Now, they pressed the hell out of Rodgers and Jordan Love since Love got some game because this game was so bad. Mm-hmm. I'm baffled, Jimmy, especially because Alvin Kamara did not give me money like I needed him this week. I'm not going to complain. I'm baffled that Aaron Rodgers could come out and drop a dud like this. Now, I asked this question. Do you think it was because he didn't participate in the preseason?
I think that's in a sense, that's a huge part of it. Not so much the preseason. I'm thinking about everything else before that.
And training camp and everything. Yep. I mean, with his age, you would think that he would be able to walk in and just go.
But it's not that. See, and we said this. I said he was going to pay a price for what he did all offseason, which essentially was being far away from the team with the specter of him not ever returning or trading me, whatever it was.
Because
when you think about like this whole offseason, who was it that was grinding with their teammates, grinding in individual drills, practices, sharpening their skills? Russell Wilson looked great. Tom Brady looked great. Dak Prescott looked great. All those guys. Where was Aaron Rodgers? He was in Hawaii chilling with Miles Teller, right?
He really was.
Yeah. And dropping all these subtle hints, handling this in a very immature way, a way that no leader at the quarterback position with his skill level, MVP, has ever done before. And that's when I knew, okay, this is going to be problems. It's not going to be, okay, I'll show up to camp, I'll be Aaron Rodgers, I'm great, and that's it. You're responsible for the psyche of a whole football team. Forget the coach, Matt LaFleur. You're responsible for that. And this is what he did all offseason. This is how he messed up the psyche of this team. Now, the bad part is this. They play Detroit next. is they're going to say, relax, 16 games left. Aaron Rodgers has already said that. And they're going to come out and they're probably going to destroy.
Relax. He should get a T-shirt.
And they're going to destroy Detroit and try to erase everything that happened in week 1. Even though I don't think that that's exactly going to happen because it's Detroit team. They have more fight in them now than they ever have before that I've seen in a really long time. So it's not going to be that easy. I hope they lose this game. I hope the Packers lose this game so that they, like Ben Simmons, can hit rock bottom and be forced to acknowledge what the problem is with this team.
Well, I don't want that to happen only for one reason, because I don't want Green Bay to just trade them. I really don't. I want Green Bay to just – I don't want them to
You want them to have to suffer through this? Is that what you mean, why you don't want them to trade them?
Yeah, in a way. Is that bad to say?
Am I wrong? Not necessarily. I mean, sort of, yes.
If I would have known that would have been frowned upon, I might not have.
I wasn't expecting that. But
I kind of feel like they should all suffer together as all suffering family. So,
right.
What we do here every Monday on Unfair Sports is Jimmy gives us the news.
And now Jimmy has the news.
Thank you, Wendy's. I cannot get this to open up correctly, so I'm going to eyeball it like Stark. All right, so one of the things, Jay, that you can earn if you were to clamp Davante Adams up for 5 catches and 56 yards is a brand new contract extension, which Saints cornerback Marshawn Lattimore, Ohio State, was able to receive a 5-year, $97.6 million extension. I don't have the guaranteed money in front of me because my app.
$62 million.
Is that a record for a cornerback?
Yes, it is.
Okay, so record guaranteed money for a cornerback, securing the bag that he has earned and so well deserves.
Good God. Hey, man. That. I guess when they saw what happened, they realized we probably should pay this dude. Definitely worth it. Let's see where it goes from there.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny. It shows you how great Davante Adams is because he was a non-factor, even though he had 5 catches and 56 yards. But still, anybody who can do that, especially a cornerback who's able to shadow all over the field, because not a lot of cornerbacks do that. Not as many as you think. I don't even think. Well, Jalen Ramsey, he doesn't shadow. They move him around to different spots. They talked about this in the game last night. But either way, he's established himself, Lattimore, as one of the best cornerbacks in football. All right, so I guess we can call this, Jay, Black Monday for college football going into week 3. And that is because USC former head coach Clay Helton has finally met his end. He was fired today, effective immediately by the USC Trojan administration. Because my app's not working, I don't know exactly who the interim coach is going to be. But this is a move that I think a lot of people saw coming. And I actually watched a big part of this game on Saturday night. I stayed up to watch it. This was Stanford and USC. And just like we talked about with the Packers, they had very little fight in them. And this is the result of that.
Yeah, I mean, that's an embarrassing loss. 42-28. You lose to Stanford, who should not be beating anybody. No. Dante Williams will be serving as the interim head coach, and Williams joined the staff in 2020 as cornerbacks coach and defensive pass game coordinator. He was just elevated to associate head coach this past season.
Yeah. I love David Shaw for Stanford, but there's no reason why you should get beat like that by Stanford when they basically run like a 1987 wishbone offense.
Exactly.
Whatever it is. I don't know what that is.
How long before Urban Meyer starts eyeballing his job?
Hey, man, don't even
after
go there.
This week.
Don't even go there.
What's next?
We're not even going to go there. All right, up next. So the 2021 class of the Hall of Fame, the Basketball Hall of Fame.
Naismith Hall of Fame,
yeah, was inducted this weekend. Yet again, my app's not working, so I can't give you all the names. But among the headliners were Chris Bosh, as well as Paul Pierce, and Chris Webber. So did you get a chance to watch any of this, see any of the speeches or anything like that?
I did not. There were 16 inducted. I didn't get a chance to actually go. I didn't get to watch it. I was traveling, so there was no opportunity for me to be able to watch because I was on the road from Knoxville to Nashville, which is a 2.5-hour drive with beautiful scenery. But no, shout out to Chris Bosh. I saw the picture of him.
D-Wade and Braun?
Yep, him, D-Wade and Braun. So it's but the notable ones, Ben Wallace, Chris Bosh, Paul Pierce, and Chris Webber and all that jazz. It looks beautiful.
Yeah, and part of what I'm happy about, I wish
Lauren Jackson.
Yeah, I really appreciate Ben Wallace. I really appreciate Bill Russell, who I think goes in as a coach, already went in as a player like 50 years ago.
Right.
But Chris Webber didn't get a lot of mention in this, and I think that that's very fitting because if this were a proper Hall of Fame, he would not be in it. Yes, he had a very good career, but as far as greatness, as far as transcendence, he never had that. But this has always been my criticism of the Basketball Hall of Fame. It's the Hall of we really like you as opposed to the Hall of supreme greatness.
It's just overall basketball with, college and NBA, so it's not NBA by itself. Is that it?
Try to call timeout. I don't have one. My bad, y'all.
That was kind of iconic.
Yeah,
Definitely.
It's news.
Damn, that's so rude.
And that
is.
was Jimmy with the news.
Thank you, Bob. And I shouldn't be mean like that to him. I really shouldn't.
You really should. Okay, so
yeah, all right. So real quick, something that I noticed. First of all, this was a really fantastic week of NFL football. Just to be able to watch the majority of these, I think it really made me realize how much I miss football. But I saw something, Jay, and we talked about this a little bit earlier about how many upsets there were. And as I'm watching these teams go down, I figured out exactly what it was that contributed to all these upsets, all these teams that had no business, we thought, beating the teams that they beat the way that they did. And it's because, first and foremost, they're tired of y'all. They're tired of all of you critics who all summer, I'm talking to you, Jay, you're mostly responsible for this, telling them how bad they were, that they were going to go 2-15, that their quarterback is bad, that they have no chance. They got tired of hearing all that. Philadelphia got tired of everybody telling them that they're going to be last in the NFC least, which, the least of the least. They got tired of that. Jalen Hurts in Philly got tired of that. Houston, you told them they were going 1-16 without Deshaun Watson. They got tired of listening to that all offseason. Arizona, you're going to be last in your division. The Rams, Seahawks, 49ers, they're all better than you, whatever. Derrick Henry's going to run for 250 yards on you. They got tired of that. The Bengals, you're the new Cleveland. Your quarterback was injured last year. He's coming back. He's not going to be what he was. They got tired of listening to that. The Lions, now they lost, but the Lions, you've been the Lions. That's all anybody ever says to them. And yes, they lost, but that team never gave up. They literally did start biting kneecaps like their coach told them to and had a chance to get the ball back to tie the game against my 49ers. I know we don't believe in moral victories, but in my opinion, that's a moral loss for the 49ers with how they let them come back. But the Lions fought in order to get back. And even Pittsburgh, Big Ben, you're too old. Your team always fizzles out. Buffalo's in the AFC Championship. You're not going to beat them on the road. 23-16 victory. And it looked easy. The defense had their way with them. And lastly, we just talked about the Saints. No Drew Brees. Seamus INT Winston is going to throw 4 picks. Aaron Rodgers is great. He's better than you by a mile. Well, okay, so actually that was me who said all that.
Yeah, you said all that.
I said all that.
That was all you, 100%.
But the Saints got tired of that. And when you think about it, Jay, in the age of social media, in the age of podcasts where you have dozens of podcasts being created every single day to criticize these teams. You have social media. Everywhere they go, everywhere they look, they had to listen to the criticism all off season long. And they got tired of it. And they used that as motivation to make a statement in week 1. That's what happened.
No, I get that. And that makes sense that they wanted to shut up the doubters. Now the question I ask is then can they keep this going? That's the thing that I'm more concerned about is what does it look like week 4? What does it look like week 5? If they can keep the doubters quiet, I am all for that. So,
and we know how this works. Some will, some won't. But the interesting conversation is which of these teams that got an upset this weekend are actually going to be still hanging around fighting for a playoff spot later on in the season.
It's exactly it. Exactly it. So, well, speaking of upsets that happened and some that should have happened, I'm thoroughly disappointed one didn't. But I think this is a moral victory that should be celebrated. It's going to be the Cleveland Browns barely losing to the Kansas City Chiefs, basically losing to the team that beats everybody. Oh,
you get slight disagreement from me on that, Colin.
So, I mean, I can understand you saying that, but they went out there and took the lead, took the handles, took the reins of the game, and then Patrick Mahomes does what Patrick Mahomes does. So, on the OSG report that we had, check that out on YouTube so you can get an idea of what we talked about last week, and we'll probably have another one this week. We talked about this game, and the one thing I made mention is that Patrick Mahomes is the great eraser. Their defense can be more risky. They can take more chances because they know one thing's going to happen. Patrick Mahomes will find a way to find Tyreek Hill 40 yards down the field, wide open, and they're going to run open for touchdowns.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to be able to score in minutes, rather in a few seconds merely, instead of having the traditional 17-play, 14-minute drive, you know what I'm saying, or 7-minute, 8-minute drive. They'll have drives in 1 to 2 minutes just because of the skill set that Patrick Mahomes provides, as well as the speed they have with Tyreek Hill, Mecole Hardman, and then freaking Travis Kelce being just the beast itself. I do feel like this is kind of a moral victory for the Browns. This is the first time I felt like the Browns are truly going to be competitive every game.
Well, they can turn it into a moral victory if they say, all right, we played them, we hung with them, even though to me it felt more like a 10-point victory for the Chiefs, but 4 points nonetheless. They can say, all right, so if we meet them again in the playoffs, we know that we can play with this team.
Yes.
We anticipate we're going to be much better by then, and therefore we've got a chance to beat this team. Let's try to get this game in Cleveland, first of all.
Exactly. I think the only problem I would run into in this is that did OBJ play this game?
No, he was out.
He was out. Okay.
He was out.
Okay. And that's why he didn't have no catches. I was wondering.
Right.
I didn't see him anywhere. I was like, I wonder what happened to him, but I didn't. I got to this game when I got to the bar to go watch it a little bit after it started, so I didn't get to look it up. But Baker needs to throw a touchdown. That's basically it. I mean, he threw for 300-something yards, but Nick Chubb, of course, and Kareem Hunt rushed for touchdowns, and Landry rushed for a touchdown. They mixed it up, and I was proud of Stefanski for doing something like this. And Baker is really good with the fake. Oh my God, he's really good with the play action fake. He's just good at acting. Hence why he has like 8 bajillion commercials. But the Browns look like a competent team. They look like a team that I feel like will compete long term, and that's not something I've been able to say for years. I got to give them props. The fact that they were able to take the lead as far as they did with Kansas City, and they tried to grind the clock out. They tried. I mean, they ran about 26 times in this game. They tried to grind the clock out. I saw a stat that the Chiefs are 10-6 when down 10 points in the second half. No one has a winning record in NFL history, I believe, outside of that. What did you expect?
It's because when you play the Chiefs, it's about more than executing your game plan, and it's about more than getting up on them. It's about which team can make them uncomfortable. The only time that we've ever seen them lose these last 2 seasons is when a team made them uncomfortable. Yep. Watching this game, even when they were down 22-10, they didn't look uncomfortable. Therefore comfortable. Therefore, I knew that they were going to come back and win this game about like they did by 4 to 7 points.
Yeah.
That's what it's all about with Kansas City.
Exactly. That's exactly what it is. Is you got to get past the line. You got to make Mahomes uncomfortable. Make Mahomes spin around in circles in the backfield, because he does that very reckless scrambling. He'll run direction. He'll flip around. Even though he's got the wheels for it, them defensive linemen and some linebackers are just as fast. He wheels around so much. You got to keep him doing that. Right. And then at the same time, you got to know where Tyreek Hill is. That even goes back to my Titans take from earlier, is how did they not know where DeAndre Hopkins was the entire time on the field? You got to know, as the Browns, you've got to know where Tyreek Hill is. You can't let him have 11 catches for 197 yards when he's catching in the middle of the field. You got to have somebody spying that or something. But I'll give the Browns, like I said, a moral victory for this one. I feel like it looks like they're becoming a cohesive unit. If this wasn't the Chiefs, they win this game 29-12. If it wasn't the Chiefs. But this is what you get when you deal with the borderline potential GOAT for the future.
I agree.
Good job. Solid week for us with the Frozen Five.
Yes,
Jimmy, it was a winning week for the first week. So I want to give a quick rundown on what we did and how we did it, and explain my thought process real quick. Go back and look at the videos, of course, here on YouTube. Check out last week's episode, as well as follow us, all that jazz. Like, subscribe, share, because sharing is caring. But games. First off, Steelers. With the Steelers plus 6.5. I knew the Steelers were going to keep this game close. I felt it. I didn't think they were going to win it. And I was pleasantly surprised, even though I saw Josh Allen. I saw one of the highlights of the strip sack that TJ Watt got. Josh Allen was being Josh Allen. He was just being reckless and loosey-goosey with the ball. It was something that you should have seen coming. So, good job, Steelers, taking the dub and sinking those Bills. Browns plus 6.5 as well. I knew this game was going to be this close. There was no way the Chiefs was going to blow them out. The Browns, top to bottom, has one of the best teams in the league. But they're also playing Patrick Mahomes. So I figured Mahomes would wheel them to a victory in the end, and damn sure he did it. The Broncos, -3. Give me that Teddy
Now-
Bridgewater.
Now, be honest. Was that one easy to pick?
Very easy to pick. Very easy to pick. I looked at that game and was like, they're playing the Giants in New York. Daniel Jones didn't want Gettleman to keep his job.
No.
And so what did he do? Help them have a reason to fire David Gettleman, because when they fired Gettleman, then they can move on from Daniel Jones.
Yep.
And he was also turning the ball over like he normally does. He was being the typical Baker.
And I think during that game, I think I texted you all and I said, "Is Daniel Jones really this bad?"
Yeah, and as you mentioned, they should have an established run game, a good run game, to take pressure off of him. His running back is Saquon Barkley.
Coming off ACL, who 10 carries, 26 yards, not going to cut it. But this Broncos defense is a bit better than people think.
We talked about this.
Yeah, we did.
I picked the Broncos to make the playoffs because I think they have maybe the best defense in the league. They're up there.
They might.
That's the scary part. That's the scary part. Von Miller and them, they look healthy. The whole thing. And then having Surtain the second over there, Patrick Surtain. Oh, Jesus. They look good. So they produced like I thought they would. I'll talk about my two L's real quick. The Washington football team. I did not expect a hip injury to happen like it did. If Fitzmagic didn't get hurt, Washington wins this game. I'm just going to put it out there like that. But that -1 was bad. And then, of course, I bet on the Titans because the Titans fans told me I should. They told me that their team is going to be great. They told me their team's going to the Super Bowl. They're going to do all that. And they went out there and got that thing spanked. I probably should have bet on my starting quarterback in fantasy instead of them. But, you know.
What was the line on that game? It was 3, right? It
Yeah,
was
they were even.
Titans -3.
Titans -3 at home. So neutral site, it would have been a pick 'em. And the Titans disappointed me. So that is your Frozen 5 recap. So with that, Jimmy, I thought that we should have a little fun here.
Oh, boy.
I want you to think. Not hard, but I want you to give me some reaction. So there were 12 quarterbacks that were new starting this season. There was a change of 12 quarterbacks. That's crazy. 12 quarterbacks, 12 on new teams. Ridiculous. So I want you to tell me one word. We're going to play one word. One word.
Okay.
Your thoughts on the performance of each of these 12 quarterbacks.
Okay.
But I'm going to add one more. It's going to be 13. Since Jalen Hurts now is the starting quarterback for the Philadelphia Eagles, and it's definitely, we have no controversy. We're going to start with him. He'll be the 13th one. But he'll start at number 1. Jimmy, give me one word about Jalen Hurts.
Composed.
Okay. Give me a sentence to back up your thinking.
Jalen Hurts looked as composed running an offense as he generally did in Alabama and Oklahoma.
That's a good point. He really did look like he had command. I watched one play and I was like, okay.
Like, there he is. There he is.
That's what I saw at Alabama that I told people to watch out for. That's a good one.
Okay.
All right. Ryan Fitzpatrick.
Shit.
That's a good one.
No, a big part of the reason why is because I had him in multiple DraftKings lineups. God, I hope my mother didn't hear that part.
Yeah. Oh, boy.
Yeah, Ryan Fitzpatrick. Let's see.
You'll do a complete sentence. Just tell me why. Back up your why you feel that way about it.
I mean, you don't expect it to happen like this. Yeah, you knew ultimately Taylor Heineke was going to come in as a starter, but you thought it was going to be after 4 or 5 games of magic where he just dazzled us and where he gave the football team a version of the kind of quarterback, like how they're a quarterback away, given that defense and the skill position players.
Right.
But now we aren't going to see that for 6 to 8 weeks, even though I think Heineke's a pretty good backup. But it's so Washington football team.
So Washington. All right, here's your next one. You ready for this one?
I hope so.
Tyrod Taylor.
Okay. You know, again, and another one of those, like how I talked about Houston as far as all the crap he had to listen to all offseason. And in a lot of ways, Tyrod Taylor's like the most unlucky quarterback that we've seen in a long time. I mean, we know that he's a pretty good quarterback. We know that he can run an offense. We know that he's mature, but it's just like something always goes wrong no matter where he is, or he knows that it's only a matter of time before he gets yanked, even if he makes the playoffs, out of his starting spot for the guy that they really want in there. Yep. So in this, I don't think he's in that kind of a situation. I should have said comfortable. He looked comfortable. He looked like, for the first time, knowing that he's going to be the starter, or at least he doesn't have a guy behind him that he knows they're looking to replace him with, especially since they're trying to figure out their Deshaun Watson situation. But I was really surprised to see that he had one of the best performances this weekend.
He did.
Quarterbacks.
Like 291 or something like that.
Yeah,
he just...
Yeah.
Looking good. Okay. Sam Darnold.
Finally. Finally, you are with a team with more skill position players who can probably make you look better than what you actually are. I've always thought Darnold was going to be a good quarterback. I never thought he was going to be really good or great, but with the kind of skill position he has around him on offense, I think that is going to elevate the way he looks, even though he, to me, is still just a good quarterback. But that's really all they need, I think, in this offense.
Yeah.
But what really surprised me about this is the defense, and I think you remember right before the season started, I said this young Panthers defense, they're going to be a lot better than people think. Now, of course, you're playing the Jets. I get all that. But they still looked like they have the makings of being a pretty dominant unit in about 2 or 3 years when these young players really get more seasoned. So I really like what I saw. I was actually going to text Silk to see what he thought about his boy. So he's got to be feeling pretty good today.
I got to hit him up on that one, the walk-in strong opinion on that one. Okay. Teddy Bridgewater.
But my first word was helmet. He's got this thing. Why does it seem like Teddy Bridgewater's helmet is like, like that movie Little Giants, where it's just like the helmet is just like way bigger than the rest of his,
like in Spaceballs, the Darth Vader head.
Lord helmet, Teddy, Lord Bridgewater. But no, outside of that, expected. This was a very Teddy Bridgewater-like performance, even though I saw him go down the field a little bit more than I'm used to seeing him. And that's the one thing, if he can do that, Teddy, because I know, he's the reason why people see him more as a game manager is because, he checks down a lot. He hits a lot of the underneath stuff, short routes, and that's fine. But if he ever got comfortable with adding that to his game where 1 to 2, 3 times he takes that shot and completes it because he is accurate, then that would really elevate him from being pretty good or good to potentially really good, and let him get 2 or 3 seasons in this offense without having to keep moving around. Let him be the guy. He beat out Drew Lock. Let him be the guy. So I was in a sense, that was expected to see that.
I can do
outside of the unexpected, him throwing the ball down the field more. So that was good.
Okay.
Yeah.
Jared Goff.
Jared Goff, that's a toughie. Trying to find the right word. That's dang. Of all the ones to get to really stump me, that's the one. Jared Goff, I'm gonna say doubt it. As in all offseason, one of the most just crapped on and doubted quarterbacks. And there were moments in that first half where he looked like the Jared Goff that Sean McVay traded away. But then in that second half, and that's what I talked about, the fight in this team, a big part of it had to do with him. He looked pretty good. He looked like he didn't quit. He didn't get down on himself. One mistake didn't turn into 2, 3, or 4, the old Phillip Rivers syndrome. Mm-hmm. And I think he had over 300 passing yards, right?
338 yards.
338 yards.
3 touchdowns.
3 touchdowns. I thought it was 2. 3 touchdowns.
He threw it 57 times, too. Good God.
You don't want that.
No.
You don't want. But even in a loss against a team that was clearly better than them, I really like what I saw from Jared Goff.
Okay. Next up, Carson Wentz. I know, right? It's one of those.
Carson Wentz, I'm going to say healthy. At least, even though you lost by 12, at least you were healthy by the end of the game. And that's something to feel good about in the world of Carson Wentz. And I think he was pretty decent too, north of 200 yards, a couple of touchdowns.
Yeah, like 260.
Yeah, I mean, you're playing a better team. You're playing a quarterback who's
251.
251. Yeah, a quarterback who's much better than you. So his goal, and I say this often when you have a quarterback who's got a really bad injury history or is coming off of a bad injury, I don't care how many touchdowns you have at the end of the game or interceptions or passing yards. Where is your health? Is your health intact at the end of the game? Cool, victory.
Okay. Trevor Lawrence.
Oh, I should not use this term, especially as someone who works in mental health. But I'm going to use it anyway. Please forgive me. I'm going to say bipolar.
Ooh,
because he had some really bad, some really good. But it's what you want to see. It's what you expect. Everything he did in that game was interesting. Everything he did in that game was entertaining to watch that. And this is what I like about watching young quarterbacks is you get to see the beginning of the progression. And typically what you see is you see a lot of bad and you see a lot of good. So you see flashes of what they could be, and then you see flashes of what they can be also if they don't put in the time, the work, don't have the right coaches, etc. So I really liked this performance from Trevor Lawrence. This is what you want because the Jags know if they're not going to the playoffs. I hope Urban Meyer doesn't think that, but they're not going, especially since this is going to be his only season as their coach anyway before he goes to USC. But you want to see that. You want him to make all these mistakes. You want him to make this season. You want him to get these out of him because he's seeing coverages. He's seeing a game speed that he's never seen before. So this is to be expected. But, I will take the higher end, the fun side of his bipolar by looking at the 3 touchdowns and the 300-plus passing yards.
Okay. So we're going to jump into 2 guys in back-to-back games. We're going to first start off with your boy, Andy Dalton.
Move out of the quarterback spot. Move out of Chicago. You got your chance. And unfortunately, you were one of the ones who wasn't motivated enough by the doubters in the offseason because exactly what we thought we were going to see out of you, quarterbacking a lifeless team where you have no second move, no curveball. That's exactly what we saw. The only time this offense was electric was for the few plays that Justin Fields got in there.
Yeah.
Right?
He ran, 3 plays, it looks like?
Yeah. The game was, 34-13 or something like that?
34-14, yeah.
The Rams are better than them, but they're not that much better than the Bears. They're really not.
Bears defense should be something a little bit more vicious than this.
Well, they didn't know they have no game film of L.A. Rams Matthew Stafford, so they were at a bit of a disadvantage.
That's true.
But I think that when you have to just keep getting on the field because Andy Dalton can't move the ball, that wears on you. It wears on you physically. It wears on you mentally, emotionally. So you can't just squash this loss as nothing for the Bears, but Andy Dalton is the problem. We knew he would be. He just needs to get out of the way and just tutor the young fella.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah. And Khalil Mack is making me look bad. Aaron Donald had 3 tackles, a sack, tackle for a loss, and Khalil Mack had 1 tackle, and that's really
Come
it.
on, Khalil.
Well, I'll look it up the hurries and stuff later on the advanced numbers. But same game, Matthew Stafford.
MVP, baby.
I knew he was going to say
Let's
MVP.
go.
Better give me that MVP.
And again, this is kind of crapping on Jared Goff a little bit. The same thing he dealt with in the offseason, but just the deep throws that he hit. That's a big part of what this offense was missing, and he does it comfortably.
Jimmy, 12 yards per pass.
12 yards per pass. Almost as much as
20 for 26, 321.
20 for 26?
Yes.
This is it. He's never had this kind of a defense behind him. He's
no
never had an
excuse.
offensive head coach like this. He's never had – I know the run game could be better. If they had Cam Akers, it would be so much better. But this set of receivers that he has, even Tyler Higbee was eating. This is exact – in L.A., finally getting the respect you deserve. I know it's just week 1, but this is exactly what Matthew Stafford has wanted his entire career, and now he's got it.
Yep. All right, let's hit up 2 rookies. Mac Jones,
clinical. He was clinical. He was efficient.
Clinical.
Yeah, no turnovers, which is exactly what you want in a rookie quarterback. One of the things you want in a rookie quarterback. With a rookie, just like I was talking about with Trevor Lawrence, if he's got that kind of talent and he's got a little bit of Favre in him where he's going to take chances, okay, you can deal with the picks as long as you get some touchdowns on the other side of it. With Mac Jones, he's not that kind of quarterback. He's very Tom Brady. He's Tom Brady-esque, as we've talked about, in the sense of being clinical, efficient, make the right read, and he did that. Yes, the Dolphins beat him by 1, and they are about 1 point better than them right now.
That's a good point.
But he was clinical. He was exactly what you would expect to see out of Mac Jones. So I think the coaching staff, even though they lost, is probably happy with what they saw.
I agree.
Because he didn't beat the team.
Right. Yeah, he didn't lose the game for them.
And the Dolphins are a real defense.
Yeah, Forrest has been doing a phenomenal job of building that defense. So, he didn't lose the game for them, which is the thing you have to give him mad props for. Zach Wilson.
Maverick. He's got a bit of that Brett Favre sort of maverick off-platform throw in him. You could already see in that game that he's eventually going to be the quarterback that the Jets have been needing, since the 60s, since Namath. But he looked I like what I saw. I think they had 14, so 2 touchdown passes, right? Those 2 touchdowns that he threw were those types of throws where he had to extend the play, and he's going to have to, especially now that he's lost his left tackle for 4 to 6 weeks in Mekhi Becton, unfortunately. But, he's got that maverick in him, and that's what people liked about him. And that's a big part of the reason why at number 2 he was taken over, a Heisman Trophy candidate, Mac Jones, who had 77% completion percentage, is because he can do that. Same with Trey Lance. That's your curveball. You need a guy who can extend plays like that. Mahomes does it. Wilson does it. Brady doesn't have to, but he's Tom Brady. He doesn't count. He's in another stratosphere. You need guys who can do that, especially like you said earlier, when you have linebackers and defensive linemen who are just as fast as your quarterback.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay. Last one of the week.
All right.
Jameis Winston.
Jameis Winston. I know, right? Jameis, finally, we see. I mean, he's had games. He had games in Tampa where he, had a lot of touchdown passes, especially the season where that 5,000-yard season a couple of years ago where he had all the interceptions, but he had over 30 touchdown passes. Yeah,
30 interceptions. Yeah,
but finally in the sense that we see a game from Jameis Winston where he looked mature. Like the decisions that he made, they were like mature quarterback decisions on the field. Nothing to beat yourself, nothing to beat the team, and I mean it's a testament to the team around him. It's a testament to that defense, like you talked about, that just gave him just field position that a quarterback, you can't get better than that with the field position he was given, as well as, and I think this helps him too. Yeah, you have a superstar in Alvin Kamara, but when you have a set of receivers minus Michael Thomas that nobody knows and your favorite receiver has to become the open guy, your job as a quarterback is a lot easier because you're not locking in on this diva to give him, not Michael Thomas, but just a diva to give him his 10 targets a game so he can do his chip and dip commercials, Jay.
Yeah.
So finally we see a mature Jameis Winston at the quarterback position. He's got to keep that up. Got to keep that up.
I agree 100%. Mm-hmm. So, Jimmy, got to talk money.
Yes.
Talk about other people's pockets.
Money.
One thing I love to do is talk about other people's pockets. Actually, I don't really like to talk about other people's pockets, but I love keeping up with other people's pockets. Mm-hmm. Because we are now in the time of the year where we're in the season where certain quarterbacks need to start getting paid.
Mm-hmm.
So, Josh Allen, who was part of the 2018 draft, got his bread. 6-year, $258 million extension worth a maximum of $288 million. He got paid first out of that class. We got two quarterbacks, for some reason, that ain't got paid in that draft. Jimmy. We have Baker Mayfield and Lamar Jackson, the number 1 pick and the number 32 pick.
Mm-hmm.
That's
funny. Yeah,
the bookends of that draft.
All right.
Have not gotten their paychecks yet. And so, of course, we're asking the question of, are they worth the money? Should they get the extension, the big extension, the super paycheck, blah, blah, blah. And I'm curious to know from you, after the Adam Schefter article that just came out, I think it was this morning, about Lamar Jackson's focus on the season at quarterback rather than his contract extension, which he can sign this year, and he doesn't have an agent, so he's doing the negotiations because he's focused on football. He ain't focused on negotiations. And then you've got Baker Mayfield, the number 1 pick, who still hasn't got his extension from the Browns. So Jimmy, I'm asking you this question: who do you think is going to get paid first, Baker Mayfield or Lamar Jackson?
I think it's going to be Baker Mayfield, which is not to necessarily say that he's more deserving. I think they're both equally deserving of getting that big contract that they've worked for. I mean, I think Baker's been through a lot in order to get this with his tenure with the Browns. And I think that Lamar Jackson, from the number 32 pick, who people weren't expecting this, to become an MVP and to win something gaudy like, 75% of your games, they're both equally deserving. But I think that because of timing, Baker Mayfield is going to be the quarterback to get paid first because, like you just said, if Lamar sticks to his word as his own agent and says, and means it, that he will not negotiate his contract during the season because he wants to focus just on the football aspect of the season, we know Baker Mayfield does not have that exact same belief that at any point that you want to negotiate my 180 to 200 to whatever plus $1 million contract during the season, I can be in the middle of a hike. I can drop back. Owner wants to talk to me right now. We're talking right now. I'm leaving. You know what I'm
walking off the
We'll
field.
figure it out later. I'll be right back.
Yeah.
But no. So that's what I think. So I think because of timing, I think that he will get his during the season, and I think that he's going to be cheaper, actually. It's funny. I bet this is a big part of the reason why the Browns run the ball more, because they know that for every touchdown pass that he throws, it's probably an extra $2 or $3 million in guaranteed money or something like that they're going to have to pay Baker. So I think that he'll be cheaper, and I think that they're going to want to do it now. They don't want Lamar Jackson to get his that will probably exceed Josh Allen's, because then that's even more that they're going to probably have to pay Baker. So they're going to be more motivated to negotiate and get the contract done now as well. And plus, with Baker, you kind of have all the leverage, because when was the last time Cleveland had a quarterback like him? And Cleveland fans, don't say Derek Anderson, because that was for one season.
Who?
Lightning in a bottle doesn't count. right? You remember that?
Right. That's what I'm saying. Like, no, who?
I mean, even Bernie Kosar, like, he's probably a better quarterback than Bernie was at the 70s or the 80s. Totally different game back then. So he may very well have been he may be the best quarterback this franchise has ever had, unless I'm missing some. Well, Otto Graham or somebody like that back in the 50s, whatever. But
I'm talking about modern era of play. I don't think I can recall
when there were
the Browns
televisions. Yes,
right. Hate you. That weren't black and white. Right.
Yeah.
I can't think of a quarterback that they've had that was this even polarizing since Tim Couch was drafted in '99. Besides that, it's just been cycle after cycle of just. I mean, Johnny Manziel, but he was drafted late in the first. He was projected first number one pick. Baker wasn't projected, but it was a shocker that he was taken, and that's what makes him even more polarizing. Tim Couch was a projected number one pick, got picked number one on an expansion team, so you expect him to get destroyed, similar to Derek Carr getting destroyed. David Carr getting destroyed by the Houston Texans as an expansion player. So I don't know. I'm in your camp as well. I think that Baker's gonna get paid first. Baker does have an agent where Lamar doesn't. And in this situation, I think Lamar needs an agent. I mean, when you get to this level of contract, just get a damn agent. Let somebody else talk up to them and let them tell your agent how much they don't want to pay you instead of you hearing it directly.
Well, I think a big part of the reason why is that when you look at this move by Lamar to not have hired a professional agent, clearly what he wants is control. Control in the sense of any of the discussions that are had, because I mean, I know you're supposed to trust your agent and they negotiate on your behalf, but he wants to know everything that is being said. The things that teams would typically say to an agent, or maybe in such a way to where if the player heard it, that would be somewhat upsetting, or they would dispute that. He wants every word that has anything to do with his contract. He and his mama want to be there for that. So it's about control. So therefore, to give that control over to an agent, it doesn't seem like right now with the way he approaches this that he wants to do that.
And I get that, but at the same time, when you're talking about this level of money, have somebody else. I mean, because that's the thing about it. When it comes to having an agent or having an attorney look over contracts and stuff, I know people that have gone through the contract stuff just in general. Every job tries to find a way to pay you as little as they possibly can. And they know if you're talented, they know they have to pay a certain amount. And so they're going to try to argue in there if they can just get a little bit less so they can use money for other things. Granted, this is a salary cap league, so I understand that is a concern for the team. We're going to pay you all this money. We ain't going to pay nobody else around you for the most part. But Lamar out here trying to be more control. I can understand Lamar being controlling if there was no chance. If he won the MVP, I get him doing his own contract negotiations. You're in MVP, buddy. No reason for you to expect anything less than what Josh Allen got.
Here's my question for you. All right, so I know the Ravens have been ravaged by injuries on the offensive side. But despite that, we know that the Ravens have one of the more talented rosters in the NFL, and we definitely know the Browns have one of the top 3 most talented rosters in the NFL. Which of these two quarterbacks do you think would be most likely to give a sort of Tom Brady-esque haircut and take less so that they can keep more of this talent around them?
If you want me to be honest, it'd be Baker Mayfield. You got Kareem Hunt, Nick Chubb, and then all those wide receivers, and then Myles Garrett and that defensive setup, and then add maybe a piece 2 on the offensive line that you got to focus on. I could see Baker taking a haircut just to make sure the studs at the skills position stick around.
And he can afford to, because, I mean, he's got that with Progressive. Like, he's got a new Progressive commercial every single week.
He's got a commercial with everybody.
Which is funny because Lamar Jackson, I don't ever really see him on any commercials, and I'm not sure exactly why that is.
He's not personable enough. You got to have personality to do commercials. You got to be able to act. And like I said, Baker's really good at acting with his play actions and his play fakes. That he's tricksing. Like, there's a video, I retweeted it earlier this week. I can't think of the writer's name off the top of my head again. My apologies for this. But they tweeted a video of their excitement of Baker Mayfield when it comes to play fakes. And this was what was cool about it, is that they freeze framed it, pointed things out. Baker did a play action of a handoff to Chubb, and he went a direction. The defense followed it. Later on in the game, they did it as a fake. And when he did the fake, the linebacker had Baker sacked. He stood there as close as we stood to each other right now, literally, with Baker's back turned. he second guessed where the ball was, froze in space, and Baker rolled out, and he was like, shoot, he's got the ball. And he turned to run after him. It was it was it's chef's kiss. It's what you want at your quarterback with fakes. And so he's really good at doing stuff like that. And so I get that for him, the way this team is set up and stacked, it might be in his best interest to do a Tom Brady type extension so that you can keep both Kareem Hunt and Chubb. Because I think Kareem Hunt will take a pay cut as well after everything is going down. He's trying to let the tide and everything sink more, and people not pay attention to the bad situation he had in Kansas City. He will take a cut. You got to pay Chubby.
Yeah, and they have, right?
Right.
Yeah.
You pay Chubby, and then you've got those receivers. And that's where you start to get a little, okay, what do we do with OBJ when his contract extension comes up? Landry kind of deserves a little bit more money, too. And Njoku, you got to find a way to hang on to him. I think that he's solid at tight end. And then Hooper, they just added him. You know what I'm saying? So they've got so many things that they have to think about around Baker. I know Baker recognizes that the best teams have the best players on the team, too.
Yes.
You can't just try to make lemons out of lemonade with everybody. Some of them are limes, and that's not going to make lemonade.
Right.
So I can see Baker taking the haircut of anybody, but for Lamar, he's getting a damn agent, man. I'm just going to keep saying that over and over. Get an agent. I applauded Richard Sherman when he did his deal with no agent and got the incentive deal and basically said, I'm going to prove that I'm still worth it, made the All-Pro, and showed that he was worth it. Then he messed up his Achilles. The problem you run into with that is Richard Sherman already had years of proof that he deserved extra money. Now, Lamar's a quarterback.
Now, it seems like a big part of it seems like you're worried about Lamar. You're worried about the fact that he's doing these negotiations by himself, or he and his mom, that he's going to not so much leave money on the table, but there's not going to be money in there that's supposed to be because they're going to kind of bamboozle him in a sense.
That's what my fear is. And this has nothing to do with intelligence. It has everything to do with expertise and verbiage that you have in those contracts. Lamar, you just saw 5 players have Achilles or ACL tears on your offense. You got your rookie wide receiver that's out had groin surgery. You've got a lot of people not on the field. That is concerning for me because guess what this does now? It is the Lamar Jackson show. Lamar Jackson's going to do things, but Lamar Jackson's going to do everything right now.
So, part of what he should do, he should get practical about this. He should say, all right, so for most NFL teams, they are usually off the day after they play. I know you got rehab, you need rest, you need days off, stuff like that. But he needs to pick like a day of the week, maybe – I don't know what their practice schedule is, film sessions, whatever that is, but he needs to find like maybe a 2 or 3 hour block of time every week and just make that for focusing on anything to do with his contract negotiations. Hey, a organization, if you want to talk to me, let's talk during this time so that we can try to hash this out, work on this, and then I can get back to my number one job.
But it's so much work reading through all that legal verbiage in those contracts, and that's what I'm saying. God, dude, just get an agent. You're too high profile to not have an agent at that. If he wasn't a quarterback, I wouldn't say this. He's a quarterback, and he's doing and you can tell that he does a lot of film study, and he does research, and he actually pays attention, and he's focused. Dog, get an agent. So on the editing room floor.
Yeah. All right, so what we missed, this one I kind of teed up a little bit earlier with the injury to Ryan Fitzpatrick, hip injury, out 6 to 8 weeks. Taylor Heineke comes in which I'm not that upset about, Jay, to be honest with you, because I have him on one of my dynasty teams, a team where I'm just hurting for quarterbacks.
Selfish.
Yeah, but with Taylor Heineke back in here, do you see him, I kind of see him, I don't know, like it's hard to say. How do you think he's going to do when he gets in there?
I mean, he looked okay, I guess, in that game. I didn't get to really check him out like I wanted to, but he did. He looked good last year. I just hope that he has improved from last year.
Did you see him in that playoff game against your Bucks the first round? He looked pretty good in that game,
he
actually.
Looked, and at that dive, man, he looked like he was – I thought he had the job. Yeah. And then they went and signed Fitzpatrick. Granted, I understand why at this point, but now let's see what happens.
Bit of a panic move. All right, so tonight, by the time you all see this, Monday Night Football, the Raiders and the Ravens would have already happened. Yeah. But ESPN and Monday Night Football continue to modernize themselves in the sense that their curator for the music on tonight's broadcast is going to be none other than the certified lover boy himself, Drake, fresh off of yet another #1 album. So if you just if you're watching the game tonight, you just think to yourself, golly, they spam a Drake track every 5 to 7 minutes. That'll be the reason why. What'll be interesting to see is outside of his own songs, whose songs he does play.
Right. He ain't playing no Kanye, I'll tell you that.
What if he did? But he would do the opposite of that. Wouldn't he do it anyway?
No. Or Pusha T. Neither one of them are getting played. We definitely know that. But it's interesting that, like you said, they're modernizing everything. What was interesting to me is that we don't have back-to-back Monday night games this year.
I know, I missed that.
That's kind of sad to me. I was expecting a game right now, but, what else? What else?
Yeah. All right, so lastly, and I know you saw this, and I know you love this, I talked about Trae Young in the sense of him needing to find ways to get more respect, to separate himself from being a Steph Curry clone, to really get the stardom that his basketball ability deserves. And he did that in the playoffs with their run to the Eastern Conference Finals, but he continues to really put on this villain image as it pertains to New York. So last week, he made an appearance in Madison Square Garden again, but this time, not as Trae Young, the basketball player, but as Trae Young as the heel. During a broadcast of WWE SmackDown, he came out and trolled the New York crowd yet again, and they let him have it as only New York fans could. But it was really funny to see, and this is exactly what I was hoping to see more of from Trae Young.
He is the villain that they deserve and they've been needing.
Yes.
He is what the NBA has been needing. Someone to just the heel, someone to just hate. And players like this I root for because you can tell it's all in fun.
Yes, exactly.
He's not being a asshole to be one. He's literally, this is all fun and games because he knows that it really plays into everything. And at the end of the day, he has respect for everybody and everything around it. That's why I love it, and I am all here in on that.
It's not Patrick Beverly. It's not Draymond Green. It's none of that type of stuff that just makes you
fake
really not
stuff.
like. Yeah,
it's more so you can tell it's a joke.
Exactly.
You can tell he's having fun with it.
Yeah.
All right.
I love this.
I love it. All right. So with that, we appreciate y'all joining us as usual here on Unfair Sports. Make sure while you're watching us on YouTube, like, subscribe, and share. If you're listening to us wherever podcasts are downloaded, listen to, make sure you rate us and review and give us 5 stars. And if we deserve it, just give us 5 anyway. So with that, for Mike, Bob, and Wendy, thank you so much for doing your thing on the production side. For my co-host, Jimmy, we'll have our fantasy stuff later this week. Jimmy's going to do his thing. He's going to win the Frozen 5. And
yes, 5-0, week 2.
He's going to go for week 2, 5-0.
Yep.
Go for another winning week. So with that, we'll chop it up in a few days.
Peace.
Peace.